Hello, friends. Because of all the positive feedback and love shown for Denise and Seung-ho's story, we decided to write one more special chapter. Their journey has touched so many hearts, and it only felt right to give readers one more beautiful moment with them, this time as they step into a new chapter of love, family, and parenthood with the arrival of their baby. Denise Carter knew something was different before any test confirmed it. She could feel it. Not in a dramatic way. Not at first. It began quietly. A wave of nausea in the morning. A sudden hatred for coffee. Exhaustion that made no sense. The kind of tired that settled in her bones even after a full night of sleep. At first she blamed work. That was easy. Carter Auto Group was growing. The rebuilt Southside location was thriving. Carter Foreign Car had added 2 new fleet contracts. The East Side shop was running smoothly, but Denise still found a reason to check in every other day. Because she was Denise. Because letting go was still a work in progress. And because, according to her husband, she was professionally allergic to sitting down. Seung-ho had said it one morning while watching her try to answer emails, approve invoices, and eat toast at the same time. Denise had looked over her laptop at him. I sit down. You sit down with assignments. That still counts. No. She had rolled her eyes. Then the smell of his coffee hit her, and suddenly everything inside her turned upside down. Denise covered her mouth. Seung-ho froze. Immediately. Denise? She pointed toward the coffee maker like it had personally offended her. Turn that off. Then the smell of his coffee hit her, and suddenly everything inside her turned upside down. Denise covered her mouth. Seung-ho froze. Immediately. Denise? She pointed toward the coffee maker like it had personally offended her. Turn that off. His eyes moved from her face to the machine. It's coffee. It's poison. It's the same coffee you drink every morning. Not today. He turned it off without another word, then crossed the kitchen to her. Too calm. Too focused. Too much like a man who had once run a full security operation out of a hotel suite and was now silently assessing his wife like she was an emergency scene. Denise pointed at him. Do not do that. Do what? Look at me like I'm a situation. You are pale. I'm black. You are still pale. She opened her mouth to argue. Then another wave of nausea rolled through her. Her hand gripped the edge of the counter. Seung-ho's expression changed immediately. Sit. I'm fine. Sit. That tone. The husband tone. The one that said he loved her deeply, but he was absolutely prepared to win this argument by simply picking her up and moving her if necessary. Denise sat, mostly because her legs agreed with him. Seung-ho crouched in front of her chair. How long? She looked away. That was a mistake. His eyes narrowed. How long? A few days. He said nothing. Denise sighed. Maybe 2 weeks. 2 weeks? I've been busy. You own managers. I also own businesses. And a phone. I didn't need a doctor. You also said that when you had the flu and tried to go inspect a hydraulic lift. It needed inspecting. You had a fever. It was a low fever. You fell asleep in your office holding a wrench. It was a small wrench. Seung-ho closed his eyes briefly. Denise almost smiled. Almost. Then the thought came. The one she had been avoiding. Her period was late. Not a little late. Very late. At first she had blamed stress. Then travel. Then work. Then the fact that life had been moving so quickly since the wedding that her body probably didn't know what day it was either. But now, the nausea, the coffee, the exhaustion. Her hand drifted to her stomach before she realized she had moved. Seung-ho noticed. Of course he did. His eyes dropped to her hand, then lifted slowly back to her face. The air changed. Completely. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Outside, Chicago kept moving. Cars passed below. The city hummed. But inside their kitchen, everything went still. Denise. His voice was softer now. She swallowed. I might be wrong. What are you thinking? Her fingers pressed lightly against her stomach. I'm late. The words were barely louder than a whisper, but they landed between them like thunder. Seung-ho went completely still. Not cold, not distant, just overwhelmed. How late? A little over 2 weeks. He exhaled slowly, then reached for her hand. Do you have a test? She gave a nervous laugh. No. Then I'll get one. I can go. No. Seung-ho, I can buy a pregnancy test. I know. Then why are you saying no? Because your husband is going. The word husband still had the power to soften her, even now, even after months of marriage. Her husband, the man who had crossed an ocean for 2 weeks and stayed for the rest of his life. The man who had become her peace after so much noise. The man looking at her now like the entire world might be changing, and he intended to stand right beside her through every second of it. Denise tried to smile. What if it's negative? Then it's negative. What if it's positive? Seung-ho lifted her hand and kissed her wedding ring. Then we breathe. That did it. Tears filled her eyes before she could stop them. He stood immediately and pulled her into his arms. She held on to him in the middle of their kitchen while the possibility of a whole new life settled quietly between them. Not confirmed, not certain, but already powerful enough to make her heart race. An hour later, Denise stood in their bathroom staring at the counter. Seung-ho had gone to the store, and because he was Han Seung-ho, he had not bought 1 pregnancy test. He bought 6. 6. Denise stared at the bag when he returned. Were you planning to test the entire condo building? I wanted accuracy. This is excessive. It is prepared. It is excessive. I also bought ginger tea. Her heart melted and annoyed her at the same time. Now, 2 tests sat on the counter. Denise had taken both because apparently his excessive preparedness had infected her. She washed her hands, stepped out of the bathroom, and found him standing near the bedroom window. He turned immediately. For once, he did not look calm. He looked composed. There was a difference. Calm was natural. Composed took effort. That made her love him even more. 3 minutes, she said. He nodded. Okay. They sat on the edge of the bed together, silent. 10 seconds passed, then 20, then 30. Denise looked at him. You're staring at the bathroom door. Yes. You think that'll make it faster? No. You're still doing it. Yes. She laughed, but the sound trembled. Seung-ho took her hand. Their fingers linked, like they had linked through so many moments. The airport, the fire, the proposal, the wedding, Seoul, Chicago, all the chapters that had brought them here. Denise leaned her head against his shoulder. I never pictured this. A baby? She nodded. Not because I didn't want one. Her voice softened. I just spent so many years building businesses, surviving things, fixing everybody else's problems. A pause. I didn't know if this kind of life was meant for me. Seung-ho kissed the top of her head. It is. The certainty in his voice made her close her eyes. You don't know that. Yes, he said quietly. I do. The timer on her phone went off. Both of them froze. The tiny chime sounded too loud. Denise stood slowly. Seung-ho stood with her. I don't know if I can look. I'll look with you. They walked into the bathroom together. The tests were waiting. Denise stepped closer. 1 second, 2, 3. Both tests were positive. For a moment she couldn't breathe, couldn't move, couldn't speak. The room blurred. Her hand flew to her mouth. Seung-ho picked up one of the tests and stared at it like it was the most fragile thing he had ever held. Then his breath left him. A slow, shaking exhale. Denise turned toward him. I'm pregnant. The words came out broken, soft, full of wonder. Seung-ho looked at her. For one moment he didn't speak. Then he pulled her into his arms and held her so tightly she could feel his heart pounding against hers. Denise broke. Not from fear, from joy, from shock. From the overwhelming realization that inside her, quietly and impossibly, was a life they had created together. Their baby. Seung-ho's face pressed into her hair, and then she felt it. His shoulders trembled. Denise pulled back just enough to look at him. "Are you crying?" He tried to look composed. Failed completely. "Yes." She laughed through tears. "Oh my God." A tear slipped down his cheek. Denise touched it gently. Seeing him undone like that nearly overwhelmed her all over again. Han Seung-ho, the man who could stay calm in danger, the man who could lead teams through crisis, the man who could face threats without blinking, crying over a pregnancy test. Her pregnancy test. Their baby. Then he lowered himself in front of her and placed both hands gently against her stomach. Still flat. Still unchanged. But not the same anymore. His expression softened in a way she had never seen before. Then he pressed a kiss to her stomach. "Hello, little one," Denise sobbed. "Seung-ho." He looked up at her, his eyes wet, his voice barely above a whisper. "We already love you." That was when Denise completely lost it. He stood and gathered her back into his arms, laughing softly through his own tears while trying to soothe her. "You started this," she cried into his chest. "I know. You talked to the baby." "I did. That was unfair. I'm sorry." "No, you're not." "No," he admitted softly. "I'm not." They laughed together, standing in the bathroom with 2 positive pregnancy tests on the counter, and their lives changed forever. Neither of them knew yet that the miracle was not 1 heartbeat. It was 2. The first ultrasound came 3 weeks later. Denise was nervous. She tried pretending she wasn't. Seung-ho did not believe her for 1 second. He drove her to the appointment with 1 hand on the wheel and the other holding hers at every red light. At the doctor's office, Denise filled out paperwork while Seung-ho read every poster on the wall like he was preparing for an exam. She watched him from the corner of her eye. "You're staring at fetal development charts. I am learning. You are intimidating the fruit size comparison poster. The blueberry stage is important." Denise laughed despite herself. Then the nurse called her name. The room was warm, quiet, too quiet. Denise lay back on the exam table while Seung-ho stood beside her holding her hand. The doctor smiled gently as she moved the ultrasound wand. "Let's see what we have here." Denise held her breath. The screen flickered, gray shapes moved, static, shadows. Then, a sound, fast, tiny, powerful, a heartbeat. Denise's eyes filled immediately. Seung-ho's hand tightened around hers. The doctor smiled. "There's your baby." Denise laughed and cried at the same time. "Oh my God." Seung-ho said nothing. He was staring at the screen like it had opened a door to heaven. Then the doctor's smile changed. Not in a bad way. In a surprised way. "Well," she said softly. Denise's eyes snapped to her. "What?" The doctor moved the wand again. "There's another heartbeat." The room went completely silent. Denise blinked. Seung-ho looked at the doctor. Then at the screen. Then back at the doctor. "Another?" The doctor turned the screen slightly. "Yes." She pointed gently. "Baby A." Then shifted. "And baby B." Denise stared, her mouth opened. Nothing came out. Seung-ho was frozen, completely frozen. The doctor smiled. "Congratulations, you're having twins." Twins. Denise's brain stopped. For several seconds she heard nothing but the sound of 2 tiny heartbeats. 2. 2 babies. 2 lives. 2 miracles. Then she slowly turned her head toward Seung-ho. He looked back at her. And for the second time in their marriage, Han Seung-ho looked like the world had knocked the breath out of him. Twins, Denise whispered. His eyes shone. Twins. Then she started laughing, not because it was funny, because what else could she do? The laugh turned into tears, then back into laughter. Of course, she cried. Of course we're having two. Seung-ho lowered his head and kissed her hand. His voice was rough with emotion. We can handle two. Denise stared at him. You say that now. The doctor laughed softly. Seung-ho looked at the screen again. 2 heartbeats. 2 tiny lives. His voice lowered. We can handle anything. And Denise believed him. By the time they told Maya, Denise had barely gotten the words out before Maya started screaming. Not one scream. Several. Min-jae appeared in the background of the video call holding Hana. Again. Because apparently Maya's screams had become a family emergency signal. What happened? Maya pointed at the screen. Twins! Min-jae looked at Denise, then Seung-ho, then down at Hana. Hana clapped. Babies! Maya was crying. Aunt Deborah cried when they told her. James got quiet, then asked if Denise needed him to come to Chicago. Marcus found out later and stared at Denise across the South Side shop office. Twins? Yes? 2 babies? That is generally what twins means. Marcus sat down slowly, then pointed at Seung-ho. This is your fault. Seung-ho nodded solemnly. I accept responsibility. Denise laughed so hard she had to sit, which caused everyone in the shop to panic. I'm fine, she shouted. Seung-ho immediately appeared beside her with water. Marcus pointed again. See? He already in full dad mode. He was right. Seung-ho became impossible. Lovingly impossible. He researched everything. Prenatal nutrition, twin pregnancies, car seat safety, sleep schedules, hospital bags, safe cribs, baby monitors, Chicago pediatricians. He bought books. He highlighted books. He ordered vitamins and then waited for her doctor to approve them. He placed a chair in her office at every shop, then somehow convinced her managers to report to him if she skipped meals. Denise found out and threatened everyone. No one was afraid, not even a little. Because they had all silently joined Team Seung-ho. The betrayal continued. Her belly rounded beautifully, firm and full. A visible sign of the 2 daughters growing inside her. Yes, daughters. Twin girls. The ultrasound tech had announced it at the anatomy scan, and Denise had immediately burst into tears. Seung-ho had gone still again, then smiled so softly she would never forget it. Girls, he whispered. Denise looked at him. You're going to be wrapped around their fingers. I know. No denial? No. She laughed. He kissed her forehead. Our daughters. Their daughters. The words stayed with her all day. They chose names slowly, carefully. 1 Korean, 1 American, both carrying love. The first baby would be Hana Elise Han. Hana because it meant 1 in Korean and because Maya's little Hana had become such a symbol of miracle and joy in their family. Elise, for family, softness and grace. The second baby would be Mina Grace Han. Mina, beautiful and bright. Grace because that was exactly what their life had become. Grace after fire. Grace after fear. Grace after loneliness. Grace after all the years neither of them knew the other was coming. Hana Elise, Mina Grace, their girls. The pregnancy was not easy. Twin pregnancies rarely were. By the 7th month, Denise's doctor ordered her to slow down. Denise tried negotiating. The doctor stared at her. Seung-ho stared at her. Aunt Deborah, on speakerphone, said, Denise Carter, sit yourself down before I come up there. Denise looked betrayed. This is medical bullying. This is love, Aunt Deborah said. It feels organized. That's because your husband is involved. Seung-ho looked completely unashamed, so Denise slowed down. Mostly. She worked from home more, held video meetings, signed documents from the couch, allowed her managers to manage, allowed Seung-ho to bring her meals. allowed herself to be cared for. That was the hardest part. Harder than nausea. Harder than swollen ankles. Harder than being unable to see her feet. Letting people care for her still felt strange. But every time she tried to push past her limits, Seung-ho would sit beside her, take her hand, and say quietly, "You don't have to prove you are strong." And that would undo her. Every time. Because he was right. She didn't have to prove it anymore. Not to him. Not to anyone. The girls came earlier than expected. Not dangerously early, but early enough to send everyone into motion. It was late at night when Denise woke with a sharp tightening across her belly. At first she thought it was another Braxton Hicks contraction. She had been having them for weeks. But then another came, stronger, closer. She gripped Seung-ho's arm. He woke instantly. Immediately. Fully alert. "What is it?" Denise breathed through the tightening. "I think..." Another breath. "I think it's time." For 1 second, Seung-ho froze. 1 second. Then he moved. Lights on. Hospital bag by the door. Phone in hand. Doctor called. Car ready. Denise stared at him while breathing through another contraction. "You rehearsed this?" "Yes." "How many times?" "Enough." She would have laughed if another contraction hadn't stolen the sound. At the hospital, everything moved quickly. Nurses, monitors, questions, a doctor checking on both babies. 2 heartbeats filled the room. Fast, strong, beautiful. Denise cried when she heard them. Seung-ho stood beside her bed holding her hand, calm on the outside, terrified in his eyes. She knew him too well now. "You scared?" "Yes. Me too." He kissed her forehead. "We're doing this together. Together. Always together." Hours passed, some slow, some fast. Time lost meaning. There was pain, pressure, tears, encouragement, Seung-ho's voice near her ear. "You're doing beautifully." "I don't feel beautiful." "You are. If you say glowing, I'll hurt you." "I would never." Smart man. Even in labor, Denise Carter remained Denise Carter, and Seung-ho loved her so much he could barely breathe. Then the room shifted. The doctor's voice became focused. The nurses moved into place. Seung-ho stayed beside her, holding her hand, grounding her, reminding her to breathe when she forgot, reminding her she was not alone. Then, a cry. Small, sharp, alive. Denise gasped. Seung-ho's eyes filled instantly. The doctor smiled. "Baby A is here." The doctor lifted a tiny baby girl just enough for Denise to see. Denise sobbed. "Oh my God!" Seung-ho's hand covered his mouth, completely undone. Their first daughter, Hana Elise. Tiny. Perfect. Crying with all the strength in her little lungs. A nurse carried her to be checked while another team remained ready, because one more baby was coming. Denise was exhausted, shaking, crying. But when Seung-ho leaned close, she looked at him with fierce determination. "One more." He kissed her temple. "One more." Minutes later, another cry filled the room. Softer at first, then stronger. The most beautiful sound Denise had ever heard. "Baby B is here," the doctor said warmly. "Mina Grace, their second daughter." Denise cried openly. Seung-ho did too. No pretending, no composing himself, no holding back. When the nurses placed both girls against Denise's chest, the world stopped. Hana on one side, Mina on the other, both tiny, warm, wrapped in blankets, their faces scrunched, their little mouths opening and closing, their fists curled near their cheeks. Denise looked down at them and completely fell apart. "My babies," she whispered. Seung-ho stood beside the bed with one arm around Denise and one hand gently touching the girls' blankets. His face was wet with tears. "My daughters." His voice broke. Denise looked up at him, and in that moment, Everything they had survived became part of the road that brought them here. The distance, the fire, the fear, the rebuilding, the proposal, the move, the wedding, the pregnancy. All of it had led to this room, this bed, this moment. 2 daughters sleeping against her chest. A husband beside her who looked like his heart had doubled and left his body in 2 tiny blankets. The distance, the fire, the fear, the rebuilding, the proposal, the move, the wedding, the pregnancy. All of it had led to this room, this bed, this moment. 2 daughters sleeping against her chest. A husband beside her who looked like his heart had doubled and left his body in 2 tiny blankets. A few hours later, after the girls had been weighed, checked, swaddled, and returned, Seung-ho sat in a chair beside Denise's hospital bed holding Hana. Denise held Mina. He stared down at his daughter like she was a miracle written in a language only his heart understood. Denise watched him. "You okay?" He didn't look up. "No." She smiled softly. "No?" His eyes lifted to hers, filled with wonder. "I am more than okay." Another tear slipped down his cheek. "I don't know the word for this." Denise looked down at Mina. Her tiny daughter yawned. Denise's heart nearly burst. "I don't either." Seung-ho gently brushed one finger against Hana's cheek. "She's so small." "They both are. They are perfect." Denise smiled. "Yes." For the first time in years, Denise did not feel like she had to hold the world together with her own 2 hands. Her hands were full now, with love, with family, with a future she had never dared to imagine. And beside her, Seung-ho sat watching over them, his wife, his daughters, his home. The man who had once come to Chicago for 2 weeks had stayed for a lifetime. And now that lifetime had 2 tiny heartbeats. Hana Elise Han, Mina Grace Han, their daughters, their miracles, their forever. Okay friends, that's Denise and Seung-ho. Happy ending. We're glad their journey to love moved you to want more of them. Our next forbidden love tale is on the way, and we're certain you'll be moved just as much as you were with this one. If you haven't already subscribed, please hit that subscribe button and become a part of our growing family. Thank you.